So good afternoon, everybody. You are welcome to the Coaching Network webinar. This is number 11. And basically, what we do in this network is to speak generally to circumstances and situations within the church, within business environment, and even within the nation, so that at least we can become an opinion molder. That's basically why we are set up. So I will briefly introduce everybody, then I will hand over to the moderator. My name is Oyewole Sarumi. I'm the lead coach of the Coaching Network. And we have with me also the coordinator of the Coaching Network, Architect Kayode Ademokoya. And we have some of our faculties also that are around, like Akintola Olaniyan from South Africa. We also have Professor Olajumoke Familoni is also with us. So briefly, I want to introduce the speaker and also to share with us some of the rules and regulations on this platform. So let me just share my screen. What we are looking at today is the menace of sexual violence and youth delinquency, options for the church to renew the society. And we have a discussion. I'm going to mute everybody. I'm going to mute everybody. Let me mute everybody. Please permit me to mute everybody. I want to do that. So we have, so sorry for that. We have three discussants. We have Professor Adegboyega Aduradola. We have Dr. Mrs. Moyo Makinde and Pastor Mrs. Blessing Titiloye. Our moderator today is Barrister Risi Olusonya. She will be taking over after this brief introduction. So quickly, let's just give you the profile of our discussant. Adegboyega Aduradola is a pastor and also a professor of civic culture at the Federal University of Agriculture in Abeokuta. Also is the assistant regional pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God and a member of the Christ the Redeemer Schools Management. He has held several positions in the university, including a member of the University Governing Council. He's a fellow of the Forestry Association of Nigeria, among others, a grandfather, a passionate role model in the family for church growth. And one thing you should also know is that he's my friend, very long time friend, my classmate. So Professor Aduradola, you are welcome. The second one, second discussant today is Dr. Mrs. Moyosore Makinde. I'm meeting her for the first time online. I know we are going to be having things to do together as we go on. She's a consultant, physician, and a family physician, and is a certified lifestyle medicine physician. She works at the LASUS, and she trains resident doctors and a runs special lifestyle medical clinic. She's a founder of a non-profit organization called Lifestyle Champion International, which is focused basically on medical education and mentoring in the adoption of healthy lifestyle choices, which prevent and treat lifestyle-related diseases, as well as empowering women experiencing domestic abuse. She loves God verily and is also happily married, and they are blessed with children. So Dr. Mrs. Makinde, you are welcome. Our third speaker is Pastor Mrs. Blessing Titiloye, and our profile is quite very good also. A youth development activist, very passionate and committed to, the youth in general and people that are academically sound and young adults who like to become a better person in life. She has an NGO also that is called Green on Global Concept, and they have been doing quite a lot of work on sexuality. She's a graduate of education. She has masters in sports psychology, and she has authored some books, especially the one that is called Sexual Purity in Our Times. And then she's publishing another one now called Feet to the Top through our NGO. And so we are blessed. This platform is blessed to have this group of people with us today. The last but not the least is the moderator, so that I can hand over to her, Barrister Risi Sanusi Olusonya. He's an human behavior strategy. He's a legal practitioner. She's worked in UK. She has worked in Nigeria. She's the owner of the organization called Wise Man Consulting and Learning Academy. She's very, very robust and very knowledgeable in all the things we want to talk about today. And so that's why she's the one that is going to be leading this meeting. So she's the one that's going to start after now. So I'd like to use this opportunity to welcome everybody on board and hand over to Barrister Risi Sanusi Olusonya. Thank you, ma'am. So you can unmute yourself now. Unmute yourself, ma, so that you can talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We have 20 minutes allocated to each speaker to talk on our chosen topic. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, they can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. May I invite Professor Aduraola?
Professor Aduraola, yes.
To be the first speaker. 20 minutes for you to speak, please.
Unmute yourself, sir.
Professor Aduraola.
Yes, thank you. I want to share my slide.
Go ahead. Okay. You can do that.
Thank you. All right. Oh, goodness. That's good. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I will be talking more as a pastor. That's the assignment our coach has given to me. On sexual violence and youth delinquency, options for the church. I want to answer the question, what exactly is sexual violence in contemporary Nigeria and in the world? It is a sexual abuse characterized by the use of force and or deception. Sexual violence or abuse is not new, but in recent times, the incidence has skyrocketed. Although sexual violence can be within or outside marital relationship, the most popular to date is rape, particularly of the underage girls. In our country, Nigeria, 70% of victims are underage girls. From the scriptural point of view, it is a sin, and in fact, an abomination before the Almighty God. According to Colossians chapter 3, verse 5. Now, what are the implications? The implications of sexual violence. It is a grievous sin an abomination to God, as I mentioned earlier, because it involves the body, the soul, and the spirit. Through sexual violence, a negative covenant is being caught in that relationship. According to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18, the Bible says those that got involved in a sexual relationship, illicit sexual relationship, they have sinned against their own body. Not only that, there is sufficient evidence of both physical and emotional trauma of the victims. This has been concluded. I mean, that some of the consequences are the physical and emotional trauma, which, if care is not taken, could be for life. But again, from the scripture point of view, sexual violence triggers the spirit of murder, because from the scriptures, we discover that there's a relationship between immorality and the spirit of murder. They go together. The violence is seen, but immorality is somehow hidden, but is there. For example, in the scripture, Tamar was violated and raped by her stepbrother, Amnon. Eventually, Absalom, who was a brother to Tamar, killed Amnon. 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 12 to 15, and also verse 32. David, as king, violated Bathsheba, a married woman that was married to Uriah. And eventually he abused his office as a king and killed Uriah to cover up. We also have the example of Herod, who sexually violated his brother's wife. And because John the Baptist accused him, eventually, because of that, killed John the Baptist. We also have the example of Shechem, who defied Dinah in Genesis chapter 34, verse 2. And eventually, this Shechem was murdered in revenge by the brothers of Dinah. Now, what is the role of the church to curb this violence?
Please unmute yourself, sir. Unmute yourself, sir. We can't hear you again. Unmute yourself, sir. We can't hear you again. Professor Adradola, unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Okay. Now you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you, sir.
All right, then I go back to the slides.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Sorry. We have to go back to the slides. Now, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. Now, I said the next slide is what the church must do. And I mentioned that there are two related tasks for the church to curb this menace of sexual violence and abuse. The first is the role of the immediate family. That the role of the immediate family we cannot overestimate, because true discipline and nurturing starts from the home. Some of those things that must be done at the family level is to step up sexual education very early in the life of our children. Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, it says, train up a child. The Bible didn't say train up an adult. Most parents unconsciously postpone the training when the children are already adults. When In Yoruba parlance, Yoruba will say, oh, there's nothing, little or nothing that can be done again. The instruction is train them when they are a child, when they are still under your roof. The next that must be done at the family level is that parents should intentionally be friendly with their children so that they can open up and discuss their sexuality. I want to emphasize here that a lot of parents are not friends to their children. They pay their school fees fine, they love them. They are not friends to their children. And so these children, very early in life, confide on outsiders, outside their family, on sexualities. So therefore, parents must intentionally be friendly. Today, it's unfortunate that some parents are simply not known by their children. They wake up very early in the morning. They have gone to office before the children wake up. And by the time they come back, the children are already on their bed. So they don't know them. And they are not their friends. Number three, that must be done under the family is the parents must know their children's friends and monitor their relationship, because scripture tells us that the person you follow, the person that is your friend, influences you. Says, evil communication corrupts good manners. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. So at the family level, which is very crucial, we must step up this sexual education. Parents must be intentionally friendly to their children so that very early they will be able to ask questions. What they should learn at home, they shouldn't learn outside where they may not get the right answer. And the children, parents must monitor their children's friends. Now, the role of the church, organized church. I must say once again that the role of the organized church is in reality to complement whatever the children have learned at home. But these days, the role of the church has been magnified because most of the children don't learn much at home. And so the church now have an exaggerated responsibility. Now, first, that the church must do is to instill the fear of God and Christian principles on sexuality as opposed to secular philosophy on sexuality. I say this because whether we like it or not, our children are exposed to other philosophies, other doctrines. And the church must continuously insist and teach Christian principles on sexuality. Number two major assignments for the church is to have regular seminars on sex and sexuality for our youth. We must make this seminar practical in a very relaxed environment. Now, both of these assignments, of these tasks, in both of these tasks, the church approach to sexuality, to teaching our children, must be mindful of the generational gap between the youth and the adult. Our youth belong to a digital generation. They are knowledgeable. Where the church comes in reality is to complement their knowledge with wisdom. These children know more than we think they know. I mean, I used to tell a lady, a girl of 12 years old, you can assume she's a girl, she doesn't know anything and get away with it. But this, you cannot get away with that. The implication is that most our young girls, our girls 15 years of age today, what they know when their own mothers was 20 years old, their mothers didn't know. Therefore, our approach must be mindful. Knowledge, what they lack is wisdom. Whatever we think we're hiding away from them, they already browse and they know them from the internet. But we must teach them with the wisdom I will conclude by saying that the church must rise to the challenge of sexual violence, early sexual education at the family and at the congregational level. Congregational input becomes more. These days, most parents don't have time for their children. Celebrating Father's Day. The truth is that most fathers these days are absentee fathers. Unfortunately, we have absentee fathers, different kinds. And so there's more responsibility, a lot of more on the part of the church. Now, the approach, again, as I conclude, is that it must be mindful of the peculiarities of this younger generation. They belong to their language. We must be friendly with them. In the church, it must be friendly with them. Some of them don't even have friendship. They are not their friends. In church, they must friendship. They must enjoy friendship. The church must intensify prayers of this sexual violence. The reason of some schools of thought, our opinion, that the last bullet that the enemy has released is on sexual immorality. Therefore, more than ever before, the church must intensify prayers to stop this menace. Thank you, sir, for your attention. Thank you for your attention.
Is the coordinator that he needs to, that is the moderator now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Olusanya.
Coordinator, thank you, sir. Mrs. Olusanya. Mrs. Olusanya, please. Hello, Miss. I have made my presentation. Mrs. Olusanya, please.
Mrs. Olusanya, it's your turn now.
Mrs. Olusanya, yes, I've made my presentation. Let's the next person, please. Take over.
Okay, if I think she's lost. So, Dr.
She's lost. Maybe you continue, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. People are still going to ask you questions. So please hold on. We'd like to welcome Dr. Mrs. Moyosore Makinde to give us our own perspective on this. Doctor, please, you are welcome. Unmute yourself, ma'am. Unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure to be here this
You also have 20
afternoon.
minutes. 20 minutes. The prof has done well with time.
And I want to thank, yes. So I will go straight to it.
All right, thank you.
And I believe I'm allowed to share my screen as well.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
This is beautiful. This your screen is beautiful.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we are talking about sexual violence, preview on what sexual violence is, especially when we are talking about the efforts that the church can make. I will quickly talk about the statistics. I'll dwell on the prevalence figures. I'll look at the forms of sexual violence, the sources of sexual violence, as well as the dynamics, the consequences, and the social regulation. And I'm sure those of us who are here on the page are here because we have encountered one person or the other, or maybe we ourselves have encountered some form of violence, sexual violence. There have been ladies who will come and say that my boss asked me to put on a bikini.
Not really, ma.
My boss
everybody
stuck his hand
hello,
down
ma.
my.
Hello, ma. People here, many of us are pastors. So,
hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, many of us are pastors.
We have to be real with what is happening.
So,
yes. Oh, yes, you're right. That's good. Yes. That's why I said either you have gone through it or you know someone who has gone through it or you have heard about it, and we all want to put an end to it. And that's why I have this slide here, end sexual violence. And I pray that God will grant us the wisdom to know what to do, because he has given knowledge. We only need to apply it. Now, what is sexual violence? It is any form of sexual activity that is carried out without obtaining consent by the person on whom it's being carried out. So the consent is not freely given. It could be anybody. It could be the spouse of someone has not freely given consent at that time. And even the husband decides to rape, and, you know, the other thing, it could happen, even though it sounds strange, but it actually could happen. The WHO also says that it is any sexual act that occurs or an attempt to obtain a sexual act or unwanted sexual comment or advances. It's not just about rape, because some people will think that, oh, sexual violence means rape. So rape involves some form of penetration, but when we're saying a sexual act, that means the unwanted sexual comments, advances, maybe touching of that person, or even trafficking, the people that traffic children for sexual reasons into other countries. Any such of these that I've mentioned, and even with some more that I will outline, are referred to as sexual violence. This is an umbrella that shows what sexual violence encompasses. You have rape there, which includes marital rape. We also have what they call date rape, statutory rape. That means there's a relationship between these two people, and they feel that, oh, because of that status, you know, I can do this because of this relationship. Child sexual abuse, incest, unwanted touching, sexual harassment or threats, even forced oral sex is also part of it. These are the different forms that sexual violence can take. I've mentioned some of them. Even indecent exposure, when you expose someone, you go and remove the clothes that the person is wearing because you want to see what the person is wearing. That is also a form of sexual violence. Or you are forcefully showing someone a video or a photograph that has pornography or nude pictures. Even voyeurism has to do with someone peeping, you know, trying to watch another person who is either dressing up or bathing. It happens on the internet too. That's why we have cyber harassment. So there are a lot of things that could take place under the umbrella of sexual violence. I've already mentioned some of these things as well. I just want to highlight forced marriage here. Forced marriage, pregnancy, and abortion. We have a lot of our children in Nigeria. The statistics say that over 40% of in Nigeria are forced into marriage, and that is really astounding. And of course, anybody that is forced into marriage will become pregnant. That's unwanted pregnancy and may be forced to abort. As female genital mutilation or cutting is also one of the things under that umbrella. So a few more statistics, just for us to know that sexual violence is a serious social and public health problem. You know, before we used to think it was just a health problem, that it affects just the person who was sexually assaulted or violated. But we discovered that it's posing a big problem for the social networks, as well as the whole of the public health network. More than 1 in 3 women experience sexual violence involving physical contact during her lifetime. And it's not only women that are being abused. Men are also being sexually abused. So you can imagine, if we are saying 1 in 3 women, then we have 1 in 4 men during their lifetime. But this information is from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the US. I will still talk about the statistics in Nigeria. And we also have the costs. You can imagine how many millions this estimated cost of taking care of a person who has been a victim of sexual violence is. So this slide just talks about the age category of the people who are affected. So we discovered that nearly 1 in 5 women have experienced completed or attempted rape. 1 in 5 women, and then 1 in 38 men. Whereas 1 in 14 men, we discovered that 1 in 14 men, they were able to penetrate someone during their lifetime. And on the other hand, we also have female rape victims who experienced it for the first time. So if they experience it for the first time between ages 11 to 17, you can imagine that most of our young people might have experienced rape and we don't know about it because it is a silent is a very silent thing going on. People don't want to talk about it. So we need to break the silence. Nearly 1 in 4 male rape victims experience it for the first time between 11 and 17. Similarly, and about 1 in 4 reported that it occurred before age 10. So if people of this age are experiencing rape at this age, they have already been exposed. And that's one of the predisposing factors to them becoming perpetrators of this act later in future. So these are the figures from the National Bureau of Statistics on Violence Against Women in Nigeria. You can see that the rape incidence increased from 63.4% in 2015 to 72.13% and later decreased to 69% in 2017. This is quite high. 63% of any population is high. And then women who were between age 45 to 49 years old accounted for the highest number of people who had any form of female genital mutilation or cutting. That's about 27.6%. And the females who are admitted to prison for trafficking were also over 10%. When you compare that to the figures that we had in 2013, that means the rates of all these trafficking and sexual abuse are gradually increasing. This is the reason why we need to speak out, we need to break the silence, we need to find a way of getting the attention of people who make public health policies to stop this. So these are a few more statistics. I will not dwell so much on it, but it's just for us to know that partner violence is also under sexual violence. So we have a lot of our women in their homes being abused and nobody knows about it. So we also have a slide here that says that majority of sexual assault victims are under the age of 30. And we still have elderly people. You can see 3% of elderly people that are above age 65 are also vulnerable to being abused. Unfortunately, our children are victims as well. Someone very close to me she told me recently that she was raped when she was age 5 and she can remember everything and she still has not been able to forgive that person. So we're now trying to find a way for her to, to go to enter the healing process. You can imagine someone at that age. So now 1 billion children are said to be half of the world's population of children, and they've been victims of violence, which includes physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence. And unfortunately, during this lockdown period, a lot of children have been stuck at home with their abusers. Unlike before, when they could go to a safe haven, they could go to school, they could go to their friends' houses, they had other places to go, but now they are just there. And because of some of the psychological frustrations people are going through, they still continue to do this harmful thing to them. This also shows a prevalence figure by WHO, and it shows that we have the highest rates globally. We have the highest rates globally. Africa has the highest rates, followed by East Asia, Southeast Asia, then the Eastern Mediterranean, and America. So what are the known sources of sexual violence? This is very key, because if we don't know the sources, then we will not be able to address the solutions, because it will just be one-sided. We'll be looking at one side, whereas another side is left undone. So we have the place, we have the perpetrator. The home is the most common place for any form of sexual violence to occur. It could be a relative, which means it could be someone's father, someone's mother, brother, sister, cousin, uncle, and be the perpetrator of that violence. Of course, we also have co-tenants. Some people, when they're going to the market, they leave their children in care of someone, but they don't know the havoc that person is wreaking on the life of their child. And so what our professor said is very key. We can't be absent from the lives of our children. Armed robbers, that happened to a young girl in her home. After a house fellowship in her home with all members of her family, armed robbers came, they robbed them, and unfortunately, she was the only lady that was raped, a young girl of about 15, 16 years. That was really tragic. It can occur in open places, in farms, in parks, in the streets, by people who are either neighbors or people that have been stalking, maybe watching the person. That lady that was raped within a worship center recently, I suspect that she was being stalked, and they knew that she was going to the church to read, and decided to wreak that havoc there. You can see other examples. It can occur within the school campus. Another story went out recently about how some girls went to their friend's house. They wanted to do a surprise birthday party, and some people had planned, some boys in their school had planned, and they gang raped these two girls, unfortunately. So those are some of the areas. Once we know the source, it will help us to address those areas and bring solution to the problem. Workplaces, people's bosses, superiors, co-workers. It happens in hospitals. There was a patient of mine who went to a diagnostic center to have an ultrasound done, and she was raped by the person who was carrying out the ultrasound. And you wonder, how could this happen? And you know definitely that the person was not doing it for the first time. It happens in prisons, it happens in war zones, after disasters such as this pandemic that is occurring right now. Once there are occurrences like that, there is an increase in the rate of assaults and sexual violence. It could be soldiers, rebels, terrorists, or even just regular people around us. So what are the dynamics of sexual violence? Because we have a lot of beliefs. Some of them are just myths and everybody swallows it. In our culture, we have a lot of people that say different things and we just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. But we want to dispel those myths, and we want to look at some of the themes that have been developed based on research. And I've tried to highlight them in this table. People have always thought that maybe the primary motive of a man who commits sexual assault or violence, or a woman, and also they think the primary motive is to gain sex. But research has shown that these people, what their primary motive is not sex, but rather they want to exert control, power, and dominance over the person whom they are showing that act to. So it's like an act of aggression rather than passion. When we say passion, we mean it in maybe sexual passion. So they use it to express their hostility against the female sex or otherwise, or to express anger, maybe because of the anger of what they went through when they were children, the sexual abuse they went through, they now want to express that same thing. There's a myth that says that only certain types of women are raped. They feel that, okay, because a woman is dressed in a particular way, the woman went out at this particular time, that is what made her vulnerable. Yes, the perpetrator usually looks for a vulnerable person. If the person, a child is being left at home, a young female child is always being left at home with the co-tenants, they will begin to idealize that, okay, nobody's looking out for this person, nobody will know, so I can try this here. So anybody, any woman can be raped, but the people who are vulnerable are more likely to be raped. And I'm going to give a list of the vulnerable people as well. Some people feel that rape always leaves obvious signs. So if a woman comes to say I was raped and they don't see any sign of her being raped, they will say she's lying. That is also a myth. Many times, rape might not leave an obvious sign on that woman, except the woman reported maybe within 24 to 48, not even 24 hours. 24 hours is too long. If the woman reports immediately, within like 6 to 8, 12 hours, there are some specimens that can be obtained that will even be able to tell us that this was the man that violated this woman. So the summary is that men or women who do this, research has shown that they are doing it to assert their identity or to compensate for something, maybe a feeling of helplessness that they have had, a feeling of inadequacy. They want to exert their status. They want to know that, yes, I can do this. And I want to show this person I can do it. Most times, when women say no to sex, it doesn't mean that they mean yes. Some people say it means yes, and so they feel that, oh, she wanted it anyway. I didn't just do it. She wanted it. She showed me signs that she wanted it. So all these are myths that we need to dispel. We should know that when women say, I was raped, we should believe them. We shouldn't silence them. When they are silenced, it silences the crime, and that person who has done that thing, we keep on doing it elsewhere. Like in a school recently in Lagos, a primary school child, of course, what he was doing was that he would give the child snacks, sweets, he would be nice to her. So one day he lured her, and because she was a very young person, she didn't really know what it was about, and he raped her. So the school authorities were informed because the girl was able to tell her parents. But even though they sent the man away, the teacher away from the school, no other action was taken against him. This was reported in the news. And it's unfortunate that that man was not rehabilitated. So he will go elsewhere and do the same thing. Sometimes rape might not even require the use of a weapon. Just trying to strangulate the person or give, a lot of discomfort to the woman could make her predisposed to this. Now, these are the vulnerable people who are more likely to be raped. I said that we have 3% of elderly people. Elderly persons are generally vulnerable. They don't have the energy, to ward off such attempts if anybody tries to do such a thing to them. Usually, most of them they live alone, them to be at a disadvantage. Women who are unaccompanied. If a man is with a woman at any point in time, that woman is less likely to be raped, especially on a journey or in a place where everybody else is moving for or doing one thing that entails having other men. Then lone female heads of households, children and young adults, children in foster care. Those are people who maybe they don't have parents or they were abandoned and being taken care of someone else. people who are mentally disabled, physically disabled, or they're in prison or in detention. We've heard about prison guards that rape prisoners, and we've heard of prisoners who are raped as soon as they get into the prison because they want to just initiate them into the prison. So the people who are there who are already frustrated, they take out their frustration on the person who is. And please take note that women also rape. Women also rape. Women rape women, and men rape men. When men rape men, it's a case of either oral sex or anal sex that is involved. So what are the consequences? We've said it's a social and public health problem. It has physical, psychological, and social. It affects us one way or the other. And for the physical injuries, it can either be genital or non-genital injuries. The person could be strangulated, the person could have bruises, could be inflicted with many other injuries, maybe from a weapon, and the person can also have genital injuries, swelling, bruising, bleeding, deep cuts around the area of the genitalia. When I was working in a hospital several years ago, this is over a decade ago, someone working with me that day was raped because armed robbers came to the hospital pretending to be patients. And, this man just came in holding his head and was saying, oh, my head. And, I was the only doctor on duty that day. It was a private hospital, and the nurses with me. In fact, we didn't even have any male with us. The young person that we had was a male, was a very young man, and who we don't think would have been able to defend us, unlike if we had older men there. So he disguised, and while we were trying to take his blood pressure, before we knew it, they brought out guns. We all had to lie down on the floor. I was pregnant at that time. Unfortunately, 2 women were raped that night. That is something I can't forget. And these young ladies, we had to take care of them immediately after the armed robbers left. Of course, they took whatever money they wanted, but the injury was more inflicted on the souls and the bodies of the people that were raped, so that they wouldn't get pregnant. We had to give them drugs to prevent them from getting HIV, what we call a prophylactic medication to prevent them from developing such diseases. So those are some of the risks that could come up. Sexually transmitted infections, infertility due to an infection that has destroyed some important parts of the fallopian tubes. Sexual dysfunction, the woman cannot enjoy sex anymore, even when she gets married, in some cases, except they go through counseling and you're able to teach them how to handle this problem. In some cases, they die, like some of the ladies that were in the news some few weeks ago. Psychologically, they could be tortured with shame, fear, self-blame. They will be blaming themselves as, oh, I'm the one that caused this thing. Why did I go out at this time? That girl could have been thinking, why did I go to the church to read? Why didn't I just stay in my house? Some people develop the same, so it could even take a long time before they get into a marriage relationship. Eating disorders, like either overeating, what we call bulimia, and then we also have anorexia, where there's a loss of appetite. Nightmares, sleeping problems, flashbacks of what happened. They could develop post-traumatic stress disorders, depression, anxiety, suicide. Some people commit suicide. They can't live with what has happened. Some people are stigmatized, and that's why people keep quiet about it. They just shroud everything in secrecy. But we thank God that there are people who have gone through such an experience and they have overcome it, and they come out to help other people. Social neglect and isolation, phobia, social phobias, not wanting to be where other people are. Reduced productivity, not being able to work, not being able to work optimally. Maybe they lose their jobs, their job performance is low, their boss cannot tolerate it anymore after a while, and so they leave their job. Interpersonal difficulties with other people, negative behaviors and vices. This is very important. Some people, because they want to cope with what has happened, especially people who are not children of God, they begin to drink, they are more likely to smoke, they are more likely to commit these offenses to someone else. So these are some of the consequences that we should take into consideration. Now, let's quickly talk about social regulation. I'm trying to look at my time. When we're talking about social regulation for sexual violence, we're trying to look at a set of rules that identify permissible and impermissible activity for individuals, firms, government agencies, as well as accompanying sanctions and rewards for such behavior. If we don't have this in place, we will not be able to control this menace, this public menace, this public health problem, because this kind of social regulation ensures that policies are adopted, policies that protect public interests, such as the health of people, the safety and the environment, and it can be enforced through regulatory programs established by legislation. So one of the things that we need to address are the factors that increase the risk of a man from some women who also fall into this category as well. But if you look at the statistics, more women are affected. So it's good to start from there. So there are factors to engage in social regulations. We have the individual factors, the relationship factors, the things that we need, the roots. If we don't change some of the things that people have grown up with in their mentality or in the society, we might not be able to do much in ensuring that this rape is no longer something that we hear about. So the predisposing factors are what I've outlined here. For an individual, any
I think she has cut off. The network has taken her away. Moderator, should we give her time? I think she will be coming back. Mrs. Blessing, maybe you will start talking until she comes back, so as not to waste time. I will stop you once she comes in. You can unmute yourself, ma. Mrs. Olusanya, can you please start talking? Unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear now?
Yes, we've not been hearing you. Can you start talking until she comes back?
Speakers. Okay, the two speakers, Professor and Ms. Makinde. We thank you, Professor, for the angle to the role of church in this, and the fact that the foundation, the says, if the foundation be destroyed, what can writers do? We know that training is very important. That was what the Prophet highlighted. Adura highlighted. Parents should know what to do in this aspect. I'm thankful for Dr. Mande for telling us that men can be raped as well as men can be raped. And then the dynamic sexual violence, the act of aggression,
Makinde,
taking it on the victim, dominating the victim.
It's a long one.
The consistency is very great as well. You know, especially when it leads to death. I think for the church, which is actually very part of the webinar, that the church has a much more prominent role to play now, because even the government, they're looking up to the church, to religious bodies, to save society from this menace. It's a menace. The figures are very, very astronomical, very alarming.
Hello, ma. She's back now. She's back.
It's back now, so
She's back
continue.
now.
It's actually what she can feed up how. That'd be very nice. She's well over her time.
Okay. Go ahead, ma. Mrs. Moyosori. Unmute yourself.
Tamaki, you can proceed.
Unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. You can do it.
Okay, yes, the host prevented me. I think there was a button or so that
I did not.
was not pressed.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Sorry for that breaking transmission. I think I was on the second to last slide.
Yes.
This slide. Let's see. I have to share again with us to conclude. Yes.
Yes, this is where you stop.
I was talking about the factors that we need to address. Yes. So I apologize for the breaking transmission. So these are the areas that we need to address, and if we address all these things one after the other in a concept, help to reduce the risk of the people who are wanting to rape, or the risk of people who are being raped, or those who are being sexually violated. And I said, alcohol and drug use, people have not come out strongly to stop the use of it. I tell you that if we are able to say no to alcohol, no to smoking, and no to drug abuse, and all these impulsive and antisocial tendencies, it starts from the kind of home that our children are coming from. If they come from a home where they're trained properly, where the environment is safe, where they go to good schools and they get trained properly. A professor was saying something about that earlier. And we know the Bible says that you train a child in the way he should go. But we know the menace of this society. We know the background from which people are coming from. Look at all the area boys on the streets. Look at when you go to the market, the pickpockets. Where are these people coming from? How did they get to where they are? And there are some cultures that already are hostile to women. Women have had a very big problem, especially in Africa, when it comes to hostility. Why should a woman do this? Why should a woman do this? So they always are relegated to the background. So if we can change the ideas that people have about women, we can see it. So that means that person would have come from a family where he either watched it or the person himself was abused. What are the relationship factors? Show me your friend and I will show you who you are. So if someone is associating with sexually aggressive or delinquent peers, then the person is more likely to do the same thing that the peers are doing. And that's why we can't let our children just go anywhere they want to. We must be in control so that they don't associate with people of such minds or character. Depending on the kind of background, if they have a background in which the man or the father has a very, very strong input in the
I think she has a challenge with our network. I think we should just let her rest. She will come back. Are you okay now? Are you back? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, man. Unmute yourself. You need to unmute.
All right. Except you unmute me, I can't unmute myself. I discovered that the host has to.
I didn't do
You should be able
anything.
to hear me now.
I didn't do anything. Oh.
Can you hear me?
I didn't do anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but I didn't touch anything. It's you that should unmute. Go ahead.
Maybe it's the network. I think it's an automatic thing. Once the phone is logged out.
Your time is even up now. Can you conclude?
Yes. So thank you for listening. So these are just the few things that we need to do. We need to create norms that protect against violence. We need to teach skills to our children. We need to provide creative environments for our children. And we need to create a support system for victims. The protective environment has to do with safety and monitoring. Then we need to establish workplace policies. We need to provide opportunities to empower and support girls and women and strengthen economic support for women and families, and also for boys and girls. So this is where I will bring my discussion to a close, and I want to thank you for your patient listening, and I apologize once again for the break in transmission. The last thing I would just say is that we should avoid blaming the victim. Whoever the victim is, we should not blame the person for what has happened. I think that's the sexual assault or rape is never the victim's fault. And once we keep blaming whoever is that victim, it will continue to perpetuate the silence that is caused by this public health problem. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Ma. No, she's not going. She's going to answer a question. Ms. Solution, yeah, it's your turn. Ms. Solution, yeah, it's your turn. Mrs. Blessing, can you get ready and then you do? I don't know whether she can hear me. Mrs. Blessing, you can start.
I think she needs to be unmuted. She's muted. I can see that she's muted from here.
I didn't mute her. She needs to unmute herself.
It's a general thing. Once you are muted from the beginning, it will remain muted for that person. And if the person is logged out to come in, the person needs to be unmuted again.
We can't hear you. You are breaking.
Hello.
You are breaking. We can't hear you.
Go ahead and ask questions on.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can anyone hear?
Your microphone is not right at all. Mrs. Titiloye Blessing, can you start? We don't have time. Please unmute yourself, Mrs. Titiloye, and let's start. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Titiloye, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Good evening, everybody. I want to celebrate the faithfulness of God today. I appreciate God's faithfulness for today's opportunity. And I want to appreciate the host for the invite. And straight away, I'll be going into my topic, which says sexual purity and the challenge for the church. As I'll be opening my slide. Okay. The topic says, the menace of sexual violence and youth delinquency. Options for the church to renew society. My own topic says, sexual purity and challenge for the church. Now, what first strikes your mind when you mention sexual purity? When you say sexual purity, sex strikes your mind. And sex is in thing nowadays in our society. Among children, teenagers, young adults, grandparents, grandchildren, grandmoms, and granddads. Now, sex matters will always attract your attention, no matter your opinion. Sexual purity. As a church, purity should be the peak, should be number one. Bible says, flee fornication. In the 10 Commandments, the Bible says, thou shalt not commit adultery. This subject should be an attraction, should attract our attention, should attract our interest and our commitment. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 2, that we should relate with all purity. To the glory of God, the young lady standing here before you has written a book titled Sexual Purity in Our Times, and has also published a book by my NGO, Feast to the Top, which is an academic book. Now, to continue, I'm a prototype of sexual purity in our times, as I recently got married at the age of 34 as a virgin. To the glory of God, I married as a virgin, and I've been advocating for sexual purity right from the age of 12. I got ordained as a deaconess in my father's church in 2011, and I became a pastor in 2014 as a single. In 2016 as a single. And I run an NGO. I preach sexual purity. I tell young ones that it is possible to say no to sex before marriage. Now, what prompted my idea of this sexual purity? I will cite an example. While I was growing up in my teenage years, I was in JSS3. I had this classmate of mine. Her name is Ronsi, very beautiful lady. She was just 14 years. She got pregnant. Her boyfriend impregnated her and raped her. Unfortunately for her, her mother took her to a quack doctor. Within 3 days, she aborted the pregnancy and she died. Everybody was sad in the class. It was from there I told myself, no man will have sex with me until I'm married. I promised myself that no to sex, because the Bible says we should flee all appearances of evil. And I decided that I was not going to commit fornication. I was going to keep myself pure until I'm married. Young boys and girls, men and women, let us advocate for this purity. In churches today, we don't celebrate purity. We don't celebrate those that are married as virgins. It's so unfortunate. Sexual violence, rape, youth crime, delinquency in youth. Rape has become the order of the day in our society. I will be looking at forms of sexual violence. Number 1, unwanted sexual contact and touching. Most pastors nowadays, they hug the opposite sex. Even when they're counseling a lady, you see a pastor patting a lady on the back and touching the lady where it's not necessary. And it is not until you touch the breast or the buttocks before you know that you are doing some unwanted sexual contact. Spouse assault. A lot of men beat up their wives. A lot of women cannot even open up. Some women will go for counseling in the pastor's house, in the church, and before you know it, the pastor takes advantage of these young ladies, even widows. They take advantage of them. Let us stop this. Sexual exploitation is very rampant. A lot of housemaids, house girls, house boys, they are being exploited. A lot of these girls that hawk on the streets, the issue of poverty, the issue of background, the issue of environment has caused a lot of things that has become causing sexual violence in our society. Now, exhibitionist is a form of sexual violence whereby you expose your genitals, you expose your body, you expose your cleavages, you post it on internet in this digital age. Now, we have public masturbation. There was a case on the internet on a BRT queue where a young man leaned on the buttocks of a young lady in front of him in the BRT queue. And he erected, he released, he was wet. There are other cases of those of men that will use scarf to masturbate. Some men will steal pants of girls in the hostels and they will use it to masturbate. It's so terrible. Watching someone in a private act without their knowledge or permission. You can imagine these small children in Face Me I Slap You House, or these young teenagers, or these young men that are jobless. They will be watching their auntie bathing in the bedroom. They will watch their neighbor bathing in the bedroom, being exposed. Incest. I remember I ministered in a church 2 years ago with my husband. And a young boy came confessing, a 17-year-old boy, that he has been sleeping with his 2 younger sisters for the past 10 years, for the past 8 years since he was 10 years old. And the parents does not know what is happening. He came confessing. Rape is the order of the day. May God have mercy upon us. What are these delinquent acts? Truancy. Children do not want to go to school again. They want to make money. They go on the internet. They're involved in fraud, underage drinking. You see a lot of these teenagers, a lot of young ones, taking banana, taking Indian hemp, taking alcohol, taking igbo, taking weeds that affects their brain. Go to Yaba over there, Yaba left. You see a lot of these drug addicts. our background, our society has failed us. The church has failed us. What are we preaching on the altar? What are we preaching? What are we saying? Is it not prosperity? Let us wake up. Let the church wake up and do the right thing, the needful, especially with this pandemic. The online is there for us to minister the right word to the youth. We have gambling, robbery. Look at this pandemic case during the COVID lockdown. So many houses were looted. So many places were robbed. There are all these young boys and girls. And some of them are pastors' kids. Please, what are we preaching? We have Yahoo boys. There was a case of an 18-year-old boy that hacked the account of one of my mentees. And my mentee had to preach to him that stop this issue of Yahoo. And to the glory of God, he became born again because he had the message. Cultism is the order of the day in our universities, in our polytechnics, in our higher institutions, sexual activities. And this leads me to a rape culture. Some of you may be wondering, what is the meaning of rape culture? You can imagine our media are flooded with sexualized images, from advertisements to our magazines, to our billboards, to our TV, to our commercials. You want to advertise a soap, you show a woman opening her cleavages. You want to advertise a magazine, you show nude pictures. Men get raped, women get raped. Women rape men, men rape men, women. Look at the case of Lot in the Bible. Lot was raped by her 2 daughters. Dinah in the Bible was raped by the prince of Shechem. Reuben raped his father's wife, Bilhah. The social media is nothing to write home about. You're on the social media and things pop up, naked pictures. What do? TV reality shows, movies. You can see examples. Advertising, imagery, fashion. Fashion is the order of the day. A lot of people are dressing in a crazy fashion. How about the words of our mouths, the way we talk in public? Even some pastors use some satanic words to minister. Now look at our comedians saying expensive jokes. They will be doing jokes and talking to the audience, saying nasty things. May God have mercy upon us. Even in churches, the comedians are not helping the matter. A statistics in a national newspaper in Nigeria gave a survey that in a top university in Nigeria, 100% of students, female students, have been raped. Out of these 100% students that have been raped, 67% did not make any reports. Only 33% made reports, but they were feeble reports. What are we saying? How do we cry out loud? Why the increase in rape? 70% of our children, teenagers, are being raped repeatedly without being known. 24.8% are underage and are raped. Only 5% of these people that are raped give these reports. But when they give the reports, only 3.5 are being responded to. There was a case of a woman recently on Twitter. She cried out loud. Her 6-year-old daughter was raped, and she reported at the police station. Unfortunately for her, the rapist bribed the police, and the police had to send the woman away. The woman was crying out loud. My daughter was raped. I need justice. This is the statistics in Nigeria. The menace of social media. Imagine a woman crying out loud, a young lady saying the truth is nobody finished secondary school as a virgin. To the glory of God, I come from a very solid Christian background. My father has a church, Christ People Assembly. Almost all the girls at least 90% of us in Christ People Assembly, we get married as virgins to the glory of God. I'm the firstborn in the family. We are 3 girls, 1 boy. We are all virgins. The third one got married as a virgin at the age of 23. And she made a first class from law school. To the glory of God, she just concluded her master's in Harvard University in US. And to the glory of God, I have my master's in sports psychology. I was so focused, I did not get raped in school. Although I had challenges with lecturers when I was doing my master's, but yet I kept myself. And I told myself, if I'm going to marry, no kissing before marriage. And I celebrate the faithfulness of God in the life of my husband. I never kissed my husband until our wedding day at the age of 34, recently. Keep yourself pure. And that is why I wrote that book, Sexual Purity in Our Times. Let everybody get a copy of the book. Imagine somebody saying nobody make out of secondary school a virgin. That is a fallacy. Our analog parents, we need to wake up. A lot of parents don't know are not on Twitter. A lot of our children are on Twitter, the wireless generation. They're on Twitter, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn, not just Facebook. Most parents are only on Facebook. They don't know their children are on Twitter. They even tell lies. They increase their age so that they can be on Twitter, because Twitter is not meant for underage. They're on Instagram. Parents, wake up. Let the church wake up. Youth delinquency. What are the factors that causes youth delinquency? Number 1, self. A lot of these children, their characters are inbuilt, that inherited from their parents. Imagine a child from a polygamous family. What do you expect the child to do, if not for the grace of God? Bible says, watch and pray. We need to watch and pray. We need to wake up. The family is a factor of youth delinquency. What are the family doing? What is the father doing? Prof said absentees father. Today is Father's Day. How many fathers have spent quality time with their children? We have the peers. What kind of friends are your children relating with? Pastor's children. There was a case of a pastor's child. I don't want to mention the church. The child tells the father that, Daddy, I am going for choir rehearsal. The father gives the child, the teenager, transport fare. When the girl gets to the church, after the choir rehearsals, she goes to an uncompleted building to meet her boyfriend and spend hours sleeping with her boyfriend on a Saturday during choir rehearsal. Unfortunately, he tells the father that, oh, Daddy, I was having my quiet time. That was why I came late. I was reading the Bible in church. That was why I came late. The child said, Mama Foju, Baba mi on emo. What are we preaching? The school is not helping the matter. There are so many schools that are not what's being called a school. Disorganized schools. The community. What is the community preaching? And what is the church doing? The church needs to wake up. Church, wake up. What are the sources of sexual violence? We have the peer pressure. We have cultism, alcohol and drugs. We have sexual addictions, as has been mentioned before by the other speakers. In some situations, men consider gang rape as legitimate means of punishing women with immoral behavior and indecent dressing. This is horrible. As I conclude, what are the options for the church? Sexual purity and the challenge for the church. Number 1, As a church, let us create forums for interaction, and experience sharing should be created. Create mentorship platforms coordinated by matured and well-trained leaders. Let there be mentorship. Let the church raise financial support that will build lives. Let them raise financial support for single mothers, for widows, even for teenage mothers. And let books like my book, Sexual Purity in Our Times, let it be promoted in churches. Let Bible studies be organized. Let's do online teaching, both digital and physical. Let the leaders lead by example. Churches should build database where people can access testimonies. Testimonies like myself, that I married as a virgin at the age of 34. 34 years was not beans because I had challenges. But to the glory of God, I waited for my man. And God gave me a very cute and handsome guy. Handsome man, to the glory of God. And I celebrate the faithfulness of God in his life for giving me the opportunity and for supporting me. There should be coordinated and intentional preaching on the pulpits, leading youth to godly lives. And finally, read the word of God daily. When last did you have your quiet time? When last did you have quiet time with your family? When last did you have quiet time in the church? Let the church wake up. Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria. God bless Lagos State. God bless the church. We shall make heaven in Jesus' name. Praise God. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blessing. You can put down your slides.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Do we still have our moderator online? I will unmute everybody now so that people can now ask questions. We have unmuted everybody. Thank you, Pastor Mrs. Blessing. Thank you, Professor Adradola. Thank you, Dr. Moyosuri Makinde.
Can we invite
okay, ma. You are welcome.
for questions now? Those are very, very interesting presentations. Very practical. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you very much. Can we invite questions from the participants?
Questions, please.
As for the question, before just too far in front of
You introduce yourself if you contribute, introduce yourself and where you're from, please.
Just to get the toe on those ones and maybe fly in the net. So, Chelsea, can I get now with you?
No question?
Break down that final third. Whether you thought he was caught there from behind.
Maybe there is no question. If there is no question,
or if they can type their questions, if you want to type your question, you can type your question, and then we'll read it out.
There on that final group. No need to apologise if we clicked you.
There's a radio somewhere.
Yes.
I muted everybody, but I have to unmute now. And the person, maybe the person is in the sitting room. The best is to put off that sound at the back. And I think it's the responsibility of a matured individual to do that in a public forum.
Yes.
That's what I feel, but there's nothing we can do.
Reduce volume, can you?
In a public forum like this, if you are in a sitting room, is either you leave that place or you put it up completely. You can be at this in the two places at the same time. So no problem. So can we, if Mrs. Olusoya, if there's
Okay,
no
can you hear me? We're having messages being sent in that people enjoy the presentations. Very, very practical. So thank you once again to all the speakers. Some are even asking if they can have the presentation sent to their email. I think the host will decide on that. I
No,
can't give you a
everybody,
conclusive answer.
hello, ma. All the people that attend this program knows that they will receive a copy of the slides. If you are
Okay.
attending for the first time, all you need to do is to put your email in the chat box. That's all.
Okay, that's good. That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
So if
So
you are
everyone
attending
that
for the first
desires to
time,
have
put your email in the chat box and you will get all the copies of the slides presentation.
okay, that's good. And if you have questions as well or contributions, please speak up, state your name and where you're calling
Hello.
from.
Yes, I would like to say something.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Professor.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you.
What's your name, please?
Professor Familoni. I'm Professor Mrs. Familoni, the president of ICLED Business School. I want to appreciate the speakers. Very well presented topics, but there's something that still comes to my mind that I think that we really have not trashed in this, and that is the real role of the churches. Why are we having the pastors that people go to for support, for counseling, for help, when they are looking for succor? Why are they still in numbers, still mishandling the students? What is it about the pastors that are doing this? I can say that the people that go for counseling are vulnerable at the point when they go for it. That you're in the choirs, they're in the. But why are we having this pandemic of church rape? That I think we still need to trash. That one is still. We've mentioned it. We've mentioned the role of individuals. We've mentioned, the need for us to be, to be careful about dressing and about purity and holiness and all that. But the role, what do we do? How much noise can we make to ensure that the pastors that people go to for succor, for help, stop taking advantage of the people that go to them? Thank you.
Okay.
Professor
Thank you so much.
Professor Adigboyega, can you talk on that, sir?
All right. I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Professor Mrs. Familoni, for that observation. Let me remind us that sexual violence and related challenges has been regarded as one of the latest onslaughts, spiritual onslaught globally. Now, that onslaught is universal. I am not holding brief for any pastor, but I must say that today, and like always, in every 12 there is a Judas. And that is one of the challenges that churches must know, that more than ever before, sexual violence has taken a new dimension. And everybody must be on their toes. I want to remind you, ma, that Peter was the head of the disciples of our Lord Jesus Christ. But at an unguided hour, not only did he deny Jesus, and we know the rest of the story, at an unguided, he denied Jesus. In fact, at one other occasion, earlier occasion, he told Jesus that he will not go to the cross. Now, what am I saying? Pastors, more than ever before, must be conscious that they are targets of these spiritual attacks than before. It's part of the challenges that ministers of God must be aware of. Today, there are premeditated, I will say, temptations like never before. Even to men of God. There are some things may not be able to say on this platform, but it is real. So all of us need prayers, and pastors must be aware that these challenges on them is also there, is real. It's not that some of these pastors are not trained, but they take something, they take some things for granted, and the devil exploit the unguided hour. I am not taking excuse, I'm not excusing it, but it is real. And I want to thank you. That is one of the reasons why everybody, including pastors, who are supposed to be good examples, must be on the guard. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm also a pastor. I will also like to add to that. One of the key things today that it seems as if the church is failing is because of lack of discipleship.
Yes.
If you are a thoroughbred disciple of Christ, nothing of such will even, be attractive to you. Because already as a disciple of Christ, you're already dead to the old man. But many charlatans who are on the pulpit today, they are not born again. They are not, yes, they may say they are born again, but they are not disciples. They are not disciples of Jesus. A true disciple of Jesus is the one that follows his word, has his mindset, and he also thinks like him. And he walks with him daily, that the Lord talks to him. So if the Lord talks to you and directs you in what to do on daily basis, moment by moment, he will not allow you to go into such evil. So the church today needs to put men and women who are already incorruptible because they are already crucified. That's the key thing. Many charlatans that are on the altar today are not crucified. We have many pastors who are not crucified. Yes, they are carrying the crucifix as an ornament, as a chain, but their heart are not being crucified. They are still full of the flesh. And that is the reason why we see all this happening to the body of Christ. Until we start preaching discipleship in the church, we will still be saying this. Like this is Blessing said, we're preaching prosperity. We are not preaching discipleship. And that is key. It's not for you to quote the Bible. That's not Christianity. It is for you to demonstrate Christ's life wherever you are, either at the workplace, either in the market, either at home, wherever you are, you demonstrate Christ's life. So, and then what you showcase to the world is the testimony of Jesus. Shikena. You can add, you can add, sir. You can add, ma.
Okay.
You have a question to answer after. There's a question here for you.
Very much, sir. I feel what is happening in the church, the church is divided. The church is not united. When church A is atrocity, church B will say, thank God it's not my denomination. Thank God it's not my own church. There are issues of some pastors that commit atrocities, and nobody, not even PFN, are coming into they let the dog lie. And you know that the Bible says in the Bible, the disciples, in every disciples there's a Judas. A lot of churches now are having individual private churches where you have, hey, this is my, I'm the Geo. No mentoring, no mentorship. The church, look, the days of old, the church was united. Even when Ananias and Sapphira told lies, there was unity in the church. They died due to that lie, due to the atrocity they committed. Let the church wake up and be united, and God will help us. Thank you, sir.
The question for you. There's a question for Mrs. Blessing here.
Okay, sir.
The question says, what did you lose for remaining a virgin till your marriage? How was it? How was waiting till 34 before marriage feel like? That's the question somebody asked.
Well, that's a powerful question. Thank you so much, sir. Well, to the glory of God.
No, tell us. Don't say glory of God. Just tell us.
At the age of 34, marrying as a virgin was challenging. Before I met my husband in 2018, July, third week in June, I wanted to commit suicide. Imagine, got over 20 sleeping tablets. I got tired. I bought over 20 sleeping tablets, locked up myself in the room, and told myself that I just want to die. I took water. As I was about to swallow this over 20 sleeping tablets that I got, I just saw a picture of myself. I had a voice. Baby girl, drop the drugs. Your husband is on the way. Your future is so bright. You are pushing thousands of teenagers. You cannot afford to die now. If you die now, you are going to hellfire. And that was how I dropped those drugs. I busted into tears. Imagine, week in June 2018. I met my husband July 9, 2018. I never committed that suicide. And when I dropped those drugs, I walked up to my mother in the parlor and I wept. I said, Mommy, these are the drugs I want to swallow. My mom prayed for me. She did not abuse me. And men of God and women of God, please be careful the way you talk to your children. Do you know that man, when I was growing up, I don't like mentioning this, but let me mention it. Do you know that, sir, I had a challenge? As they're looking at me, I bedwetted for 18 solid years to my university level, in the third year in my university. But my mother, to the glory of God, never abused me for once. She never cursed me. My mother never abused me at all. Don't abuse your children. Don't use abusive language. And by the time God will set me free from that, after 18 years, in my third year in university, my friends will go out for break, but I cannot travel. My sisters will travel out, but I'll be at home. One day, I locked myself in the room. I fasted for 3 solid days. On the third day, a revelation. A python came out of my vagina, and that was the last. And that was how I got through. God, the Bible says, watch and pray. I did not lose marrying as a virgin. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful. Mrs. Olusonya, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I've enjoyed myself so much today.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make a small contribution.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
To the fact that the role of pastors, most of our pastors, you know, if they are well educated as counselors, they will be able to perform their role properly. Because you are a pastor does not make you a counselor.
That's true.
And Pastor Mrs. Blessing, she actually mentioned this when she said that the church should create mentorship platform coordinated by matured and well-trained leaders. Gang rape are happening in the church. People are being sexually molested in the church. People are being told that if you're born again, when you're born again, all things are passed away, all things have become new. Yet, the foundation is still being destroyed. The foundation is still left opened. Yet, these people know the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. And some of them are pastors in the church. Some of them are altar ministers. The church has a lot of challenges. And the church needs to come out in full Because we're told that we're born of the world, but we're not of the world. Yet, what we do in the corner reflects what people of the world are doing. And I think the church needs to be more vocal. Like Mrs. Blessing said, if it is not happening in my church, then we're not bothered. That era has passed. Now that we're even having home fellowship now, it has become more pressing for the church to come out in full force. Our young ones now, who do they go to? Online fellowship. It has become more pressing now, like Dr. Makinde said, for parents to befriend their children. Be nosy. Yeah, I'm a nosy parent. Be nosy and be friendly with your children. When you're their friend, they will open up to you. And I think the church, we make up the church, and that's another thing we need to emphasize. We make up the church. So why are we failing at home? And now we expect the church to do more. We're failing at home and we expect the church to do more. But we make up the church. And I think that is something we need to think about carefully. Because when all else is lost outside, people run to the church. But when the church is no more a sanctuary for safety, security, for hope, what is going to happen?
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. As we finish this meeting 6 o'clock, so we'd like to give 1 minute each to our speaker to just give us their final say. So our final word, I would like to start from Blessing. 1 minute.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Well, I just want to encourage the church. Let's not lose hope. Let's keep hope alive. The Bible says, go ye into the world, preach the gospel. Now that we have online churches, let us not be discouraged that churches are not open. Like myself, I made a target that between now and my birthday, October 1st, I want to win over 1 million souls online, which I've started. Let's keep winning souls and keep the fire burning. God will help us. Jesus is Lord.
Thank you. Dr. Moyosori Makinde, can you just give us your final word?
Yes, sir. My closing
go ahead.
My closing remarks are that the people who have been sexually abused or violated, they are all around us. So we need to be sensitive. We need to listen. You might be able to pick out someone, who has gone through such a terrible ordeal around you. And we should be ready to help that person and support that person. We have some institutions that have been established because of this. We have the Mirabel Center in Lassus. Is a center for justice for these women who have been violated, so that they don't die, in this helplessness, so that they can come out of it. Like I talked about this cousin of mine who is still carrying the hurt for a long time. So even though we are talking about prevention, the people who have already been violated, they must be supported so that they can recover. So let's also contribute to this, and I know that God will help us in Jesus' name.
Thank you,
Amen.
Professor Abradola.
I want to thank you, sir, for this opportunity. I'd like to conclude by
Hello, sir. Are you there?
that understood. I want to be aware that one of the signs of the end time is sexual violence, immorality, and the associated challenges. it has never been like this before. It has always been, but the rate is just embarrassing. And therefore, the church must be aware of this, wake up this, improve on discipleship, but must not neglect the input at the family level. Because whatever you are doing at the church in reality is to complement a solid foundation from the family. You should complement it.
Yes.
So parents must be involved in their children. It's not just beyond paying school fees. Intentionally make them your friends. Step up early education, sexual education, very early in their lives. Don't let them learn from outside what they should learn from you.
Exactly.
By this, you'll be complementing their knowledge because they belong to digital age. Whatever our parents were able to hide from us, we cannot hide it from them. They see this from the internet, but they don't like the wisdom. Therefore, parents must be friendly with their children, so that the children will open up to them, and they will minimize the challenges. The moment it is up at the family level, there will be little assignment in the church. But because, as I mentioned earlier, most fathers are absentee fathers, weekend fathers. That's why we have more assignment in the church. God will help us in Jesus' name.
Amen. Mrs. Olusanya,
Thank
your
you so much.
last
Can
word.
you hear me?
Yes, your last word.
Thank you to all the contributors. Thank you to all the speakers. To the host, thank you so much for the privilege. This is such a very, very important and urgent topic. And no doubt it has been dealt with properly. I think we're all more enlightened now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma. Before we close, I want to show you this slide so that we can all be informed.
Okay. I'm a Unilag.
Next week, we are going to be, because Mrs. Blessing mentioned it, this is our topic for next week, 4 o'clock. Cooperation, collaboration, and communication.
Post-pandemic options.
Post-pandemic options and challenges for church unity. That's what we are looking at, because we have discovered that today's church lacks unity. There is too much independence. There is a disease called denominationalism.
Yes.
And we are going to be looking at this next week and contribute to the public space. So we like to, the same time it's 4 o'clock, we will send you the message. If you have your email, we'll send it to you so that you can be aware. Bishop Shola Ore